Welcome to the Growth Bridge. I'm your host, Ivo Castillo, here in Miami. And this podcast is for entrepreneurs and leaders with a strong ties in Latin America who want to understand how Anglo founders think about growth, leadership, marketing, and decision making, and how to apply their mindset in your own business. Today, I'm excited to have Toby Cox. He's the founder of Hyperion Business Solutions. Hello, Toby. How are you?
Good, Ivo. Nice to meet you, and thank you for having me on today.
My pleasure. Toby, for a start, can you tell us a little bit about your background?
Yeah, sure. I came up through banking, commercial banking with 3 Canadian banks and 1 U.S. bank. Ran the gamut of different roles within commercial banking, different divisions, different departments. Got to see a lot of very diverse businesses across Canada and into the U.S. a little bit, both from geographies they worked within, but also industries, professionals, to oil field, to construction, to manufacturing, etc., transportation. So got a really good exposure to the problems and issues that are faced in those industries, and often some cross-industry solutions that I was able to introduce to clients from my exposure to different business approaches, I guess I would say. And then I left finance or banking in 2018, I think it was 2019, and founded my own company in partnership with an accounting and law firm in Alberta, Canada, and that was called HGA Finance, and we helped companies basically resolve their financial issues, raising capital, dealing with their financial institutions, funding growth within the company, funding challenges, that type of thing. And then I rolled that into Hyperion Business in fall of 2024, late 2024, and then I shut down HGA Finance early 2025 and focused solely on Hyperion.
And what actually led you work with specifically in growth and performance?
Yeah, what led me? One of the reasons why I left banking and started the finance company was I saw the challenges companies had, and you're very within a box when you're dealing with a financial institution. Like, you have to check the boxes in order to get and keep the financing that they're offering you. So I wanted to offer more options to them outside of just banks, private equity, private lenders, putting proposals together for the financial institutions that would check the boxes, whereas a business owner may not know how typically to present in order to do that. And I enjoyed that work at HGA Finance while I ran that. But what was missing was the ability to get in and really help the company solve the problems. So if I had a company come to me with a request to pay out a bank because the bank was calling their debt, I could come up with the solution, but that's all I was there for. So I would solve that problem, but that's literally like applying a Band-Aid, right? So I stop the blood flow, and then I go away. You do the wound care, you take the rest, make sure you don't get cut again, right?
Yes.
So Hyperion was developed so that I could be involved with the business longer. We could find out what caused the issues that created the issue with the bank. We could bring in the capital to solve the issue, and then we could come up with the strategy to make sure that the wounds healed and they get back to being able to be banked by a financial institution, and that we can help them to be successful in the long term. Because on the finance side, what I found was I was solving a financial problem for a business, and often I'd hear from them 12, 18, 24, 36 months later, where again, it's a panic and they're in a financial situation. And so I didn't solve the problem, I just was applying a Band-Aid. So Hyperion is the full solution.
And what type of businesses do you usually work with?
I don't really limit myself to industries. I certainly would say industries that use more angel investing I'm less involved with, which might be early stage startups. They typically are going to pitch to angel investors and the Bay Area type things. So I don't get as involved as frequently with those type of business or opportunities, but not to say that I don't at all, because I have, and have invested in several myself as well. So it's not a no, it's just the less frequent that I would work with.
And in your experience, what is the most common problems your clients come to you with?
Yeah, I would say capital, getting the funding they need to be successful, whether that's developing new technology, whether that's challenges from the market and changing value of the assets they're selling, or more competition from others in the market. Capital is usually one of the main sources that clients are concerned about and having issues with. But what I would say, that to me, and this is the pivot of Hyperion, is what we're finding is it's often deeper than that. It goes down to, and I have a saying, ego is not your amigo. I stole that from a friend of mine who uses it a lot. And what we find with founders is they're very walled. Their idea of how things should go, they're very set in that. And so, the other old saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. Yes. Often I find apply with founders. We have a hard time moving them off of their beliefs, moving them away from their comfort, and getting them to try things that would help alleviate some of the problems they have. They'll say the right things. They want someone to come and influence them to overcome the problems they have. But then when you lead them down the path, they don't want to walk that path. So that's what probably in my mind I would say impacts most businesses if they're not being successful, is the ego of the founder.
And that make me think in other questions. So when they come with that problems of capital, and you say they need capital, but they need to do something differently. Think it out of the box. How do you help them to fix that? What are the things that you try to help them with that?
Yeah, if I'm understanding the question, I'm not a psychologist, so I can't, sit there and put them on the couch and have a session to work through why they have issues with accepting help and allowing other people to come in, and I guess it's the loss of control somewhat for them that concerns them. And I understand that as well. People are concerned if they give any control to someone else, will their vision fall offline? Will that person take advantage of them? So I think that's what it comes down to, is I try to establish trust. I have a strong history of working with clients where they realize that, my goal is to help them be successful. I don't have any what's the word I'm looking for? I'm not trying to come in and take over by any means, or to do anything that would negatively impact the business. So yeah, I try to establish trust, and I try to help them come to the conclusions without giving them the conclusion, so it still originates from them, and that seems easier for them to accept if I can lead them down a path of coming to the solution. So yeah, I would say that it's really establishing trust. If I can establish trust with a client, then they tend to slowly give in and let changes happen that need to happen to make the company successful, to put them in a position to obtain capital. So yeah, that's I think trust would be that key foundational piece.
And what is the part that the most of these business owners or founders misunderstand about growing a business?
Yeah, what do they misunderstand?
Like, for example, happens that an owner think that, okay, you know what, Toby, I think my problem is this, and I think the solution will be that. What do you think? And you say, no, you had it all wrong. It's not like that. It's not what it is, And there is a common path in most of the entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I would say, especially in the SME market, the small, medium enterprise, maybe leaning a little towards the entrepreneur that's trying to start a business, is that they want to control every aspect. I don't even know if they want to. From a profitability and a cash flow position, they're trying to wear every hat, and that's where I try to get them off of that and see how their time is valuable, in building the business and growing the business, and let someone else do, help you with your books, help you with your forecasting and projections that a lender will want to see to make sure that you understand where your business started from and how you're going to get to where you believe it can go. You need some analysts potentially. That would be early stage. As they start to mature, it's still I can't afford that full-time CFO yet. I can't afford a full-time COO or a CTO, or depending on the industry, I can't afford that. And that's where we come in, and we hopefully provide options as fractional resources so that we can build that complement around a business owner that will allow him not to try and wear so many hats, but allow him to focus on let's elevate you. And if you look at the name Hyperion, it's Greek, right? So it comes from two words, hyperion, which means elevating you above, almost like think of Zeus on a cloud looking down on the earth, right? So if we can elevate business owners up out of their business of being in the weeds of the business, Well, now they have the ability to see forward and see opportunities and assess the opportunities. Are we going to seize this one, or is this opportunity over here better? We'll see risks as they're coming up because we're up above looking at where we're going. We'll see risks as they come, and we can mitigate those risks as they come. But if you're an owner who's dragged down into the weeds and in the operation, you never have that time to get above and be proactive at looking at the future and how you're going to navigate challenges and how you're going to seize opportunities.
That's nice. And let's move a little bit about your own business. How do you currently generate your own clients?
Yeah. I get a lot of referrals from banks and from accountants because they know that I have the ability to help people navigate challenging situations. I would say that remains my biggest source of business. Also, within Hyperion, we promote a revenue share for everyone in the organization. So if you're a CFO doing some fractional work in a company, and again, this comes around to if you're a solopreneur operating as a fractional CFO and I put you into a company, you're going to want to protect your revenue stream as much as possible and grow it as much as possible. So what I often find is even the fractional people that I'm putting in try to wear too many hats. They're solving operational issues when they're a CFO, and it's like you're not supposed to be solving the operational issues, right? So I try to keep them focused on where they add the highest value for the business. If they identify an opportunity for a CFO to come in and make some operational changes, then that will massively benefit the company. Well, then they contact me, we'll get a fractional COO that can work specifically with the challenges of that business. We'll implement them, but now the CFO, any revenue that the COO generates, he gets a share of that revenue. So it helps him to protect the revenue stream, but also to do what's best for the business. So it accomplishes both tasks, so it generates more revenue. He's not working with the COO specifically on his tasks, but he's gonna earn some of the revenue that's generated by the COO. So it helps him to strategically use the resources of Hyperion. So I get a lot of referrals that way as well. Is the people that are in the field that identify an HR issue or a technology issue or a operational issue, and they contact me and we bring in the right resource.
That is a great revenue model.
Yeah. We also do a lot of lead gen, marketing, the vlogs, the podcasts, the videos, SEO, AEO, all of that kind of stuff, so that we do trend well. But with the breadth of services that we offer, it's something that where you get a personal referral into a business, it really is much easier to get in and get acceptance for what we have to offer and understanding of what we have to offer.
And that's come to another question. What slows down your ability to grow?
Educating the market.
Yeah. Why is that?
Well, because, and I'm not sure, not to put you on the spot how much research you did, but Hyperion, I'm not aware of another business like Hyperion that offers the breadth of services and solutions that we can to the SME business market. And so getting business owners to understand, like if I was just an HR company, it's not hard for a company to understand it's HR, right?
Yeah, that's why I'm so curious, because you're not HR.
Yeah, we are HR, but we're also operations.
Mix. It's really a mix. It's very interesting.
Yeah, from occupational health and safety to CTO, to like being aware of what new software and AI solutions are in the market that might be specific to your industry. And so that's where I focus most of my attention, is trying to understand what's coming up, what's available, how does that impact the clients we're working with. So I'm not directly injecting myself ever as the fractional CEO, CFO, or any of the positions, but I'm an additional resource. So the CFO that's in the company or the COO will reach out to me and say, hey, Toby, have you heard anything that could help with this type of problem? And so that's where I'm in the market looking for solutions that are cutting edge and available, or working with, and I think I mentioned this to you before, on international. I have a contact in Tokyo and in Europe and in Bogota, Colombia, and Mexico City, and we work with a firm that has offices in Bogota, Mexico, Houston, or Dallas, Calgary, Alberta, and we help Latin American businesses come into Canada, and we help Canadian businesses and American businesses go into Latin America. And so we're really aggressive on making sure we can help with any type of problem a SME client might have, and that's where I focus all of my attention, is just growing that connection and ability to understand what the market has to offer and how we can bring those solutions to clients.
That's so great. And that's come to this question. You mentioned it. Where does AI create leverage?
Yeah.
The business, and they have you see, or
For sure, yeah. I mean, ask me that question last week, it would be one answer. Today it would be another, and next week it'll probably be another, right? AI
okay.
is changing so fast, things so fast. But like, I'm working with one software company or one, I guess, SaaS company that has developed legal software that can be implemented for the annual filing that businesses have to do. So instead of going to your lawyer or walking down to registries yourself to try and take care of it, there's an online system. They'll tell you every year, say your annual filing's coming due. Has anything in the business changed? It'll walk you through an intelligent AI type of a query that will decide if you need to talk to a lawyer because there's been significant changes, or no, nothing's really changed and we're just going to do your annual filing. You pay with your credit card and boom, it's filed. So I'm seeing lots of AI being used in those type of ways, cautiously, because there's been other legal situations where AI has been used where it's actually splashed back in a bad way on the users of the AI. So we have, when we talk about ego and founders, reluctance to change until something's really well adopted by everyone and understood to be safe and less risk to the business. But I'm seeing AI being implemented in different ways every day. And as long as we can mitigate any risk it might present to a customer or a client, then we're happy to look at it and see how it can assist. And I'm not seeing it so much even because I think a lot of employees are worried that they're going to lose their jobs to AI. I'm seeing more as a resource so employees can be more efficient at what they do, maybe accomplish more, so the company they work for can take on more business because they're paralegals, for instance. It's really hard to find paralegals these days. So if your paralegal can take on 4 times the work because they're using AI that speeds up the work, then the paralegal's job is safe, but the law firm can also do better.
That's nice. That's true. That's really true. And in your case, what part of your workflow you wish was more automated?
I think the initial process of me sitting with clients and trying to figure out where the problem is in the business. Like, you've got to ask questions, you've got to see the facial reaction to some of your questions when they're answering. I don't know how to automate that, and that also coming back to my biggest challenge is no one's going to work with me until they trust me. And so if that's done through AI, then I'm not establishing and building the trust and the communication and the conversation that I'm having with those clients. So it's the biggest time consumer for me to onboard a client, but it's also one that I don't know that I can see a path yet for AI or any technology to replace that. There's other people that could potentially do that with me, but I don't see AI or tech solution that would take that burden off the plate. I call it a burden, but it's actually part of the job I like.
And after that, there is an operational headache that you would try to eliminate?
Yeah, operational headaches for customers. Probably these days, HR is one of those areas where the world is changing. The expectations of employees are changing, more flexible work arrangements. Cost of living is going up everywhere in the world. So people are pressuring the companies they work for more pay. What are the creative solutions that, we can tie employees to profitability or to increased revenue so that they can participate in the upside of the business being successful, and that de-risks just paying more to the business. I'm seeing more and more employee-owned business where a shareholder wants to liquidate some of their equity and start to enjoy life, maybe in semi-retirement or full retirement. My preference in those situations is to have an employee-owned organization, or at least partially employee-owned organization, where employees, as a joke, but I mean, if they're wiping their butt, it's like, oh, I'll take 2 squares of toilet paper instead of 4 because now I'm an owner of the business, right? I want to make sure that we're not wasting money anywhere. So I think employee-owned businesses can be very successful. And the more vested the employees are, then the more concerned they are on cutting costs and on being efficient and operating efficiently.
That's a great question, great answer. And in your position, what is a business like yours that make me so interested is that because, like I said, it's a mix. You don't provide HR. You provide HR, but with a strategy focused on the problem, right? Or focus on the solution. That you mentioned that it's hard for you educate the value.
Yeah, or the breadth of services. I could run a targeted campaign on HR because we offer HR. We'll do everything from payroll to HR policies to HR strategies, internal culture of the organization. We do all of that, but we also will focus on bottlenecks in your manufacturing facility that are costing you money, and that's not HR related. We'll also look at technology and if you're building technology, managing your teams and your contractors and things like that. So finance, we'll come in and we'll do projections and we'll build a financial package that a lender will look at and understand and believe that you understand your business from a financial perspective so that you can get the capital you need to grow. So those are all different things we do. So I can take any one of those and market that as a solo business and owners will immediately understand what I'm offering. But with Hyperion, it's like we're the toolbox. It's the whole toolbox, right? We're get your big toolbox in the shop and roll it into the office, and today I need this wrench, right? Today I need something for HR. Tomorrow I need this scope or scan and it's technology based, and tomorrow, the day after, I need to figure out if we remove the cats on this exhaust system, how loud is it going to be? It's a different tool every day.
Yes, and that's make me wonder when you feel about growth of your business. My question is to you as an entrepreneur, as a founder, as a strategy. Do you think more in growing new clients or delivering more work to the actually? Because you have these two paths, right? So every time you get into a business, you solve one problem, but immediately some other problems pop up, right? When you fix something, then comes another problem or another thing to do. So what is your strategy to building more clients, have new clients, or expand your lifetime value of your clients?
Yeah. I mean, great question and a difficult answer. Let's be honest, you and I both, and everyone, needs to pay the bills and needs to make money, right? So, I would say it's a balance, and I don't believe one is possible without the other. So if we focus on driving the most value for our clients today, that will lead to future business, both through referrals from them, through the reviews they give us, and other people see those reviews and then want to find the same solutions from us, through having one fractional CFO go into a company and does great work. But when they're in there, they now identify something from operations, and then they see the scope of Hyperion because now we're bringing in somebody in operations. And we can also work with clients' budgets, right? So if for some reason there was a significant financial issue we needed to work out and the CFO went in, and as he drilled down, he says, well, there seems to be an operational issue, not a, as we go into the numbers here, it's leading me to believe there's an operational issue. So what I can do is I can scale back the hours of the fractional CFO, and we can scale in some hours for a COO. So it's not necessarily that we're continually to scale the cost to the client of the services Hyperion is adding. We're trying to maintain something that's affordable for them, but we're addressing the highest needs. Once the COO comes in, maybe they do some operational changes within the business, or they introduce, the acronym's escaping me right now, but they solve whatever problem the CFO brought them in to solve. And that's now rolling back to the CFO. We scale the COO down, the CFO gets more involved. Okay, now that we fix this, here's the new projections, here's where we're going. And then we also notice, he notices, well, you seem to be losing $80,000 a year because you have a fairly high turnover. Well, is that now something we scale him back down or her back down, and we bring in a culture specialist and we work on the culture within the organization and find out if there's a pay inequity and deal with the pay inequity, and then how do we tie that to performance? And so we can constantly work. It's like, I would say, inheriting a full C-suite for the business, but paying the cost of maybe one full-time C-suite person, but you're getting the expertise in all the different areas.
That's so nice.
So And if we take care of clients that way, the business will grow. I don't have any doubt about that.
Yeah.
If all I focus is on filling the pipeline and trying to add new clients constantly, to me, that's a less sustainable model because I'm not focused on the ones I already have. And I don't want to have unhappy clients and I don't want to lose them out the back door. I want to make sure that they come away raving fans of Hyperion and that they saw way more value than they ever expected to in working with us.
That's great. We almost finished. What advice you will give a founder who feels stuck right now?
Yeah, reach out.
Reach out.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm a free conversation for anyone, so I'll give you a half hour, 45 minutes of my time, and be receptive, right? If you get someone who can be a mentor to you in the business community and they give you advice, or someone like myself, in a half hour, 45-minute conversation, give you some free advice, be open to accepting it and changing, because again, the biggest challenge I see is people don't want to, they have this focus and this vision and blinders on, and they don't want to move off of that. And a lot of us have seen a lot of businesses successful and unsuccessful. And I wouldn't say that the successful were more passionate or more driven than the unsuccessful. It was that they were heading down a path that they couldn't get out of the rut and move in a different direction.
To finish, what is your mindset, Toby? What is your mindset? What makes you wake up every day passionate about it?
I think, we live in a world that's very challenging, and it doesn't matter what country you're in right now. Politics, global macro events impact the business in your neighborhood regardless. And so it's very easy to get lost in the mix, right? You're worried about what's going on in Iran. You're worried about tariffs in the US. You're worried about taxes in Canada, whatever the case might be. But if a business owner puts their focus to it, they can be successful. You can block out the noise and focus on what will drive your business successfully. Some of the best built businesses come out of downturns and challenging economic times, and they focus on the quality of the service they're driving and the value of the service they're driving. And if you can do that, then you can be successful.
Thank you so much, Toby.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me, Ivo.
Thank you, everybody, for watching this show. See you next time. Bye.